All right, this is the Willington Board of Education Curriculum Committee meeting on August 8th, 2023. We only have one agenda item, and that is math curriculum feedback. So we have Aaron here tonight. And then once we're done with this feedback, we will send this curriculum to the full board if that's where you're at. So it is 5:34. So let's roll. What feedback do you have for the math curriculum that was out there?
I have a note sheets pulled up for us.
Yeah. All right, well, I can start if you want. So first, with some positives, the standardized format is just really, I just feel like that's really helpful for other people looking at, especially with the unit overview information starting with that, and then the more specific information about each individual lessons. I really like the formative assessment cool downs where you specify what teachers should look for and listen for. And then the other thing that really struck me was, and I hit this in the older grades and then realized you had it throughout, but in that initial description of the unit, you have a learning progression where you say what students have learned in the previous grades building up to what they're going to learn in that grade. And I just thought that's a really nice reminder, just a quick, this is what they've had and this is what they're learning here. I did have some questions. So I saw that you included pre-tests I saw it in some of the grades units, but not all of them. And so I was just kind of wondering if you're not doing pre-tests for certain units, how are you determining what students are coming in with? The students who already know the material, students who have those gaps from previous years, and aren't ready for that material. And then how are you kind of incorporating what to do with those two groups of students who are not like kind of where they should be, either more advanced or having gaps. So
the middle school units, I just want to make sure I am saying this correctly. The middle school units actually have designed pre-tests. The elementary units that came after, they redesigned it. So what the pre-tests are actually front loaded in the practice questions. It's a different format. So there is a pre-assessment. It's just it's not as long. So it's like usually like 2 to 4 questions. And then it's in actually just not in its own assessment, but there is a pre-unit assessment. Technically, it's a different design in the elementary versus the middle school units, the way IM did them. So just to answer that question, they are actually available for every unit. It's just they look a little bit different in elementary. And then in terms of what we're going to do, so that's twofold, right? So there's differentiation ongoing, and then there's the differentiation needed due to the COVID gaps and where we are currently and starting a new program. So in terms of illustrative math, and I might have mentioned this before, but they have 2 things that we're utilizing after we have the data from the students. So first, teachers are triangulating data between iReady pre-unit assessments. And then actually this year we're going to be starting for anyone yellow or red, like scoring yellow and red and iReady that we need to dig deeper on and kind of figure out. We're going to be doing a fluency assessment, math running records, which is very similar to literacy running records, but for math. So that'll give us some information. Utilizing those data points, we will then determine are there whole class gaps, because then that's going to be a pacing differentiation, right? So, and there's what they have called adapted units. So IM has put out, knowing the learning loss from COVID coupled with changing to a new program, they've designed what they call adaptive units, where it picks out kind of those priority pieces, and then it's like, you can skip this, but make sure you do this. And so they kind of do all of that work for you. So if it's whole, so there's whole group kind of differentiation in that, in the pacing, reteach and or, skipping. And then in addition to those, there's the we're the differentiating per small groups. IM actually provides different tasks for that, but we also have some supplemental stuff. So we're going to be doing in math this year a huge fluency focus, that procedural fluency focus, which those running records will also help with. And so there's some differentiation components there, and there's also some built within IM. So there's that, it's kind of multifaceted depending on the need.
That answered another question because I saw the adaptive units and I was wondering what that was too. Okay.
Yep. And the nice thing is too, in a conjunction with the adaptive units, there's the learning progression that IM has. So it'll show you, similar to what you were talking about in the overviews, but it's very specific. It'll say, let's say it's 3rd grade unit 2, it'll show me what they need to know in order to be able to access 3rd grade unit 2. And it'll say like, okay, unit 2 in 1st grade and unit 3 and 4 in 2nd grade are prerequisite skills or understanding for understanding this. So those learning progressions also help us kind of backfill and know where we might need to fill gaps.
All right, thank you.
I am going to just tag on. I know you talked about pre-unit assessments, but one thing we are redesigning specifically around the middle school, because the elementary school units they did create them for were performance tasks, like authentic performance tasks. The middle school unit has, I think, only 1 or 2 per the whole unit, and elementary has 3. They build them each kind of bend or session. And so we are working, the middle school teachers are working to do more authentic learning tasks for the built within the unit. So that is one thing we are continuing to build.
Great, that's good. Like I don't want to hog, so I'm waiting if you guys want to. I have a few things.
Erin, what would a performance test look like?
And I wonder, actually, I might be able to pull one up. Let me, I can pull one up from the elementary units, actually. Maybe. Where, oh, my tags are trying to do a tab that's already open. Let me pull up. And actually, you know what I can also show you is what those pre-unit, if I can, although those might be hard, sometimes those are really hard to find. The pre-unit assessments.
I really like that citing previous lessons as prerequisites, so you can go back and literally teach the lesson if it's something that the kids need. I think that's great.
Well, while she's looking for that too, Anne, I think it's both sides of it. It's if they don't have it yet, but it's also if they do have it. So if they're more advanced, you move faster. And
Right.
so I think it's kind of dual sided there, depending on where the kids are and how quickly you move through the curriculum.
And that's where having the supplemental materials are so important too for those students who already have it.
Find it, Aaron.
I think this should be. This is number talk. Oh, that's why.
The other thing I would be interested in hearing more about is the fluency task. Yeah, what that would look like.
I actually have a sample video I can show you of that too. I am trying to find, oh, is this one of them? So I can explain one. It's hard to, so because I'm looking online, I have to go through each lesson to find the one I'm looking for, versus being able to, I know where it is in the books. But like one example is, and I forget what grade this is, they were working with like tessellations and geometry and shapes. And so one of the performance tasks was around stained glass windows. I think they were designing stained glass windows with the specific geometric, like for instance, a tessellation or symmetrical design. So where they're kind of applying whatever the mathematical concept is to a real life multi-step problem.
Okay, excellent.
So that's the idea, is like they're all connected to how you would use these concepts and skills in the real world.
Does it kind of move a little toward project-based sort of
Typically, yes, except for
involved, but
yeah. The difference is because they are typically projects. The difference is project-based learning, your entire unit is building up to one particular project, where this is just kind of a, okay, now you've learned everything, let's apply it to this specific situation. So, but yes, it is hands-on and more project-based.
So can I give an example of what I think as far as that might help, and tell me if I'm off base? So in 7th grade, you do scale drawings. A performance expectation might be making a blueprint of a room, but in a project-based learning, it might be making a blueprint of an earthquake-resistant building that you've been learning about in this whole integrated unit on, dealing with earthquakes and different types of engineering, et cetera. Does that kind of go along?
Yep. Where it's usually cross-curricular, you're learning things along the way you're applying along the way, where this one, you're not necessarily applying along the way, you're applying right at the end.
the other is very, very long and involved. This is just an activity that gives you a chance to apply this skill.
Yep. Exactly.
Guys, I got earthquakes on my mind right now. Like, just dealt 2 weeks in Japan with earthquakes. So
And what was the fluency question?
Yes, I want to say there was another question. I was just going to go back to that. So let me get.
I was intrigued by your comparison to a running record. That's why I'm kind of curious how it looks.
Yep. And if I can log, does anyone, so I don't know if you have any other questions. While this, I just have to log into, and I should be able to pull this up.
I had, the Acadience as a diagnostic tool, that was something I did not know. I looked it up and saw that it's, like a program, but so I was just wondering kind of, why did you choose that? Kind of maybe a little bit more information about it.
So
hi, this is Dr. Nikki, and I want to talk.
This is the video I was going to show you with the running record.
Oh.
Let me pull this up. So to Acadience, so let me go back there, and then I have the running records pulled up. So Acadience was chosen because I was in a conference, and it was talking about some different formative and summative assessments, actually, all the different types of assessments. And this particular person was an expert in like summative assessments, and she was going over what literacy assessments, and then she started to mention the top assessments for math. And so I had actually not heard of Acadience. Well, I had heard it in terms of reading, but never in terms of math. And so she had mentioned this and said that, it works really well for math. So we piloted that this year, both the concepts and applications, and it only goes through 6th grade. So it's K through 6th. And then the computation part of it as well. We found that the concepts and applications component of the Acadience assessment didn't provide enough data for us to really drive instruction or figure out if we need to go deeper. So we are actually not going to be doing the concepts and application part this upcoming year. It just didn't provide enough for the time and the data. It just didn't provide what we felt was, effective or sufficient. So, but we are continuing with the computation because it's only a 1 or 2 minute test, and it does give us a good pulse on student fluency, and will give us another data point on whether or not we should be doing the running records and going this deep with students, with particular students, or who to do it with. So we are dropping the concepts and applications part of Acadience, but we're going to keep the computation. Just to give some background on that. And so can I share my screen, Phil? So yeah, I can let me pull this over. So I'm going to just show you really quickly what so here's a division running record, just so you can see what the running record itself looks like, and then I'll show you it in action. Let's see. So this part looks a little bit intricate, but it gets more fluent. So as you're asking students to solve questions, so the questions are down here, they're just doing the student page, so they're looking at the division questions. And then the students are tracking. This is, code for are they automatic? So this is automatic. They were able to get it within 5 seconds, or they were able to get it, but with prolonged thinking time. So this shows you their automaticity. And then your what strategies are they using? These are the codes for the strategies. Did they count with all fingers? Drawings, manipulatives? Can they skip count? Do they count in their head? They skip counted in their head. So that you're noting the strategies they're using, and then their strategy level, like how fluent with the strategies they are. So you can see it's not just about do they know the fact, but how are they getting there? So that's what the teachers are tracking. And then this kind of provides the flexibility. Then you ask further questions. So what happens when you divide 0 by a number? Like, do they understand, that number sense? What happens when you divide by 1? And then they're explaining their thinking. And these go a little deeper in terms of really understanding how they're solving these, and kind of getting their thinking out of their head. So then you do those components. And then you use that data to decide and actually, I think this is a different, let me see, I think it's do they provide, I'll have to show you the other website, because then there's a perfect staircase, just like literacy, for strategies. And it shows you for each operation, which strategy they should learn first and where they should build upon. And so from this, you can say, oh, well, they have 0 and 1s, but they don't know this. And then you start at that staircase, and then there's multiple resources to build those strategies for students. In Nikki Newton, she has a website that we are also going to be utilizing. All right, so here's an example video of an administration of this test.
Okay. All right, so you can start. And if you get stuck, you can say pass, or you can say, give me some cues, or give me a pin, or whatever, if you want something to figure it out with. Ready? Okay, go.
1,
Mhm.
3, 5, 8, 10, 14, 11, 12, 11, 13, 17, 14.
Okay. What do you do when you add 0 to a number?
It's just
What do you do when you add 1 to a number?
you're adding 1 more.
Okay. What's 4 plus 3?
7,
All right. What's 5 plus 4?
9,
What do you do when you add 2 to a number?
you add 2 more.
Okay. What do you do? How did you know 4 plus 6?
We did 6 plus 4.
Oh, okay. What's 7 plus 3?
And
What's 8 plus 2? All right. What about this kind of fact? What kind of fact is it?
the doubles.
Right. What about 8 plus 8?
16,
What about 9 plus 9?
18,
All right. What's this kind of fact? 5 plus 6. Or what did you do when you solved it?
I did 5 plus 5 and
One more. So you
plus 1 more.
hit your doubles. Huh? What if I asked you what, like, if I said, what's 4 plus 5? What would you say?
9,
What about 7 plus 5? You got the right answer. You took a little while. You were thinking. Can you tell me what you were thinking?
I was thinking, if I could do 5 + 5, but it really didn't work.
Okay, so how did you solve it?
I just kind of think in my head what would make sense.
Okay, so what did you think?
I thought like 5 plus 5 + 7, and then like I thought of 12.
Okay, so what if I asked you like 6 + 8? What would you do?
First I would add 6 + 6, and then I would add 2 more.
Okay, all right.
So that's just an example. And so she goes on with a few other questions, but that would be an example of the math running records. And I can, let me just, if you want, I can show you to where you go from there and what the resource looks like on the other side. But because it's a nice, it's so similar to what we use for literacy.
I really like the "what are you thinking" question. Because even when she was spouting off all those answers at the beginning, I was kind of curious what she was using for her strategies. Then the other thing that really intrigues me is the ladder you're talking about, you know, the sequence of strategies as they grow, you know, in their math ability and skills.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to pull that up too, so I can show you that.
Aaron.
Mhm.
So I was wondering before you showed the video, I can see that it's done individually. So question is, does everyone get it, or what is the criteria for who would be doing that?
Yep. So
Let's see.
we are still we're gonna hash through that. So currently this summer, Heidi, both math specialists and myself, and actually special education teachers are going through the math running record training. And so, and then Heidi being in India right now, we have to still touch base and figure that out. We preliminarily talked about students in yellow and red, but we don't know if that's going to be too many because this is one-on-one. So if that becomes too many, we're going to have to relook at our data and find a different criteria. So I will get back to you on that. We just haven't fleshed it out fully because it will depending on iReady, yellow and reds will depend kind of if we can do everybody or not.
Are yellow and reds the kids that are not meeting the benchmark?
Yeah, they're yellow would be just under proficient, and then red is a year or more behind.
Thank you.
And can you remind me how often you do the iReady administration so that you'd know, catching like kindergartners, first graders early that might not have?
Yep. So three times a year, and in kindergarten they don't do iReady, but we do have the Acadians. It's actually a pretty rigorous assessment for K and 1. It has a lot of it's more like Dibbles.
Okay.
Discrimination. It has multiple subtests, which are administered 1-to-1. Teachers are not. Sorry, I'll say just teachers are not asked to do the running records. That would be the interventionists.
Tracy,
Okay.
sometimes that's where we'll bring in subs too. If we're stuck and we want to make sure we get through more kids, we'll bring in a sub in so we can provide a teacher time just to pull student after student to get the data in and make sure we have a clear understanding of where we need to go with each kid. So.
Okay, great. I was just wondering, because I mean, we, as an interventionist, 3 times a year, we do the entire elementary school. All 4 of us, we bring in 1 person, and so 4 of us do the whole school. But I wasn't sure with math because that's not my forte.
Yeah, the plan right now is to do everyone in yellow and red. I do know that the interventionists were concerned in terms of if the numbers were high, but again, we have what we've called kind of the SWAT team. So that would, that's when both Lisa, the principals, myself, we kind of go all hands on deck. And that is actually a great way to get through a lot of testing too, if needed.
Yeah, just because some kids can, have strategies that, well, I mean, I'm speaking from a reading person, but they can still skirt around the system and appear like they know what they have the fluency and they don't.
Mm-hmm. Yep. In time, where we are, the plan in our Heidi and I have started to we're almost done actually, put together a 3-year strategic plan for math for sustainability too. And in that plan, teachers are administering this. Just, oops, sorry. Excuse me 1 second.
That's okay. Thank you.
Tracy, that's always about time, right? I mean, that's the biggest challenge. And it's probably sometimes it's the complaint that we, think about the student who's 5th and 8th grade who's doing a science SBAC test, NGSS, they're doing iReady. Sometimes we have to be thoughtful about who and when and where and how often and what data we're getting from it. iReady for us is our checkpoints. SBAC is the big one, right? And so we're trying to look at, especially for elementary students, where one teacher does it all. And so how many assessments are they firing through? And we want to make sure they're actually teaching and not just assessing. So trying to have that balance of what information are we going to get out of this, and is it worthwhile? What are they going to get on a day-to-day basis just working with students and teaching and their own notes? And so we're constantly evaluating that and listening to teachers really to make sure that there's not too much and that there's more of the teaching time than there is the time pulled away. As an interventionist, everything stops, right? When you are assessing all the students, everything else stops until you're done, and it's just tough. So
Yeah, I understand. And it seems like in that column for assessments and check, I can't remember what it's called, but there is a lot of different data points there you could pull from. So it seems like the bases are covered. This was just a piece that I didn't quite hear about before today.
It also seems if you do the yellow and the red, and then pass that on to the interventionist, does that work time-wise? In terms of, it seems like those would be the kids that needed to be.
yeah, we'll work through that. And honestly, it just depends on the number of kids and then determining
Talk to you a little bit about
what other data points we have, because that's only iReady, and I'll say this always. iReady is one data point. You got to look at all the data points, and did the kid have a bad day that day? And they have other examples that they can do it. It's just one example, and that's that's what the data teams do, is they go through all that information and see how they're gonna plan for a student to make sure they get them where they need to be. Aaron, are you pulling something up, or did you? Okay. What other questions do you have that I can jot down while she's looking there?
I agree with what Laura said earlier, and I think way at the beginning about how everything is very systematic. It's very cycles back through, tells you what's been covered, or that the kids should have been able to do prior to that lesson. Lost my notes here. And it's very sequential. Like I can just going from grade to grade, you can see even 7th grade versus first grade, it's kind of woven in there in that introduction. Previous methods that have been and things they have done. So it's very impressive, and there's a lot there.
There is.
Muted, yeah. I did have a question. I saw, in the elementary units, all of them have learning centers, and I was just curious, does that come with the program, or is that something that you all have developed to go with the program?
Nope, those came with the program. And they, well,
Let's say we purchased them with the program.
yeah, I'll say they're actually the centers are written into the program. The actual physical pieces we did have to acquire outside of IM. So because it's a lot of prep for the different centers, but the centers are worked into K5. They're daily in K1, and then they get to be twice a week after that.
Laura, when we started this with the middle school, the first trial run, Ken Craig was here as principal. And we talked about like making copies and just prepping all the materials. It was not doable.
It's a nightmare.
Yeah. It was not
I
so
mean,
it's still a lot for staff. It's important, but it's, you know, if we're gonna, I just truly believe if we're gonna ask them to implement a curriculum of fidelity, you got to give them all the tools they need to do that.
Right.
So that's been, you know, our mantra it's why we wrote our Besser grant the way we wrote it. Aaron has money in that for curriculum supplies. So as this is built, you need something, get it. We need to make sure teachers have what they need to implement the curriculum that's in front of them.
good.
Yeah,
Are
and
you
I'm looking, yes, I'm still looking because I found I can't find the staircase that I was telling you about, because that's it's one of these resources, but I found the activities that go when you know what you need to do. It gives so many different resources, so I'm having to go, it's taking me a minute to go through them all to find it.
Any other questions?
I didn't have any other questions. I did have a couple things I noted.
Okay.
Like that I think need to be fixed, little things.
Yep. Go ahead. I'm going to take a pause from looking and I can
Okay.
do these.
So in the kindergarten units, under assessments, diagnostic, it includes also previous grade checkpoints and practice problems, which in kindergarten, there's no previous grade. At least that's how I'm thinking about it. Maybe there's preschool. So I think that's something that's in all the other grades, but in kindergarten, that doesn't work.
There will be.
I went into the drive and there's no units in the 5th grade folder, but they are in the kindergartner folder.
You know,
So I'm not sure if I saved them like to my own drive, and maybe that's, yeah, I was trying to figure out if that was just me or if that's your drive. So I just figured I'd mention it in case it was.
you know when that was? Because we actually did have, so that's interesting. I actually might need to talk to IT about that, because that happened when we were doing math curriculum. Deb, who's the 5th grade math teacher, was like, I don't have any curriculum in my folder. And then I pulled it up and it was in mine, but it wasn't in hers. And then like another person doing curriculum pulled it up and it was in theirs, but it still wasn't in hers.
So
I don't know.
it could be, yeah, it could be that I did that back in April and maybe it's been fixed. I didn't know. That's what I was saying. I'm like, when I go into that drive, it shows it as being like from me. And I'm like, no, none of this curriculum is from me. So I'm thinking I added it to like my own drive. So
We can
Yeah,
double check that. I can
Yeah.
see it. I can see it, and I just wanted to make sure in the district.
it's
folder,
there. I just figured I'd say something in case
make
it
sure.
somehow got moved there. Or if I moved it by accident or something.
No, that's what I'm saying. I don't think that it was you. That's a weird thing, because this just happened a couple weeks ago, and it was weird because in the moment her folder was empty and mine was full, and so I don't understand.
You're just hogging them all. That's all.
We'll have to we'll have to look into that though.
And then in grade 2, unit 1, it says in the description piece, in grade 1, students added and subtracted within 20. But then the next sentence says within 10, and in grade 1, it had said within 10. So that was the thing I thought might be a typo, that it should be 10, not 20.
Yeah, I'll look back at that.
Okay.
And that's enough review, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I said, like, these are just little things. Then the other thing I noticed, and maybe this is the way it is, but in the grade 6, 7, 8 and algebra units as the resource, it says IM K-5. And then it says IM like grade 6 adaptive units, but I saw the IM K-5 and it was talking about 6, 7 and 8. So I wasn't sure if that was just a typo or if that's the name of it, but it also has 6, 7, 8.
I have to look at what you said. That's, I just want to look at it because it could be either. It could possibly be on purpose because a lot of the older grades are using younger grades as resources
Okay.
for differentiation.
Yeah, it just struck me that,
But it also
was
could be a typo. So I'm gonna
then-
go back and look at that. You said that was in all of the middle school units or just one of them?
I saw it in all of them,
Okay.
in the resources. Well, yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I saw it in each grade level. I'm not sure if it was in every unit of each grade level.
I am pretty sure we kept that in there on purpose for differentiation purposes, but I'm gonna double check that just in case.
Okay. And then the last little thing I had in the grade 6, unit 1, again, in the description, it's talking about exponents, and I'm pretty sure it was grade 6, unit 1. I hope, because I messed up at one point with my notes, but it said these materials use the dot notation. For example, like it should have been 2.3, but it's 2 divided by 3. It has the division symbol for multiplication, and then it says instead of the cross notation. So, and that's it. That's all I had.
That's
Except
probably
for the fact-
correct.
Except for the fact that the total pages in the math curriculum was 1,583. So like, that is just phenomenal. I had to count as I was going. Like, oh my God. Okay.
It's a lot of pages.
It's a lot of pages.
Eric, can you, just because I don't know what it is, can you just tell me what a tape diagram is? Because it's in a couple of them, it's in several different
Yeah.
lesson units.
So I wonder if I can actually show you an image of one. Yep. Here is, so this is actually looks like a, let me pull this on. So here, over here, to the right is an example of a tape diagram. So it's where you kind of do chunks for unknowns. And
Okay.
then it's really just like this idea of blocks, and the blocks should be, equidistant if they're the same, or like, relatively reflecting the size. And then you could keep these as unknowns. And when you first do learn tape diagrams, it's not you kind of learn it like this, with the understanding as you get used to them, that then once you come into unknowns, you can have equidistant blocks that are X, and then use that to form your equations or expressions, depending on what you're doing.
All right, thank you. Some of this math is
Yep.
different. A lot of it is very different than we used to do. I do have a few edits that can I just send you an email?
Sure. Yeah.
With an image from my notes, because I kind of did page, column, row. They're typos, basically.
Yeah. That's
Nothing major, but just things that stood out to me as I was reading through.
Yes, please send those to me. This is driving, like, I know it's in this training and I just cannot find these staircases. It's driving me crazy. Snap cubes, no.
Any other questions?
I might have to say, if I can't find it now, I will send it to you, because I know it's going to take, I'm going to have to sift through pages of these resources. And then I'll send it to you guys so you can see it, but I can show you that I have this pulled up. So this is the website that goes along with it. And this is from Nikki Newton, same person who did and you can see they're done. So you can go by grade level, you can go by topics. let's say we're working on multiplication. So let's say you're in the staircase, it goes multiplying by 1, and there's a bunch of different games you can, or activities / games for those, multiplying by 10. So they go by kind of strategy. So these are organized by strategy and then by operation. So you can, and they're, she's very big into like interactive options. There's different, and then she does, set A, B, and C. So there, and this is a plethora of resources that she has here. I feel like she needs to, they're probably on here. I just need to find those. But just to give you an idea of the website. So once, they know what strategy they're working on, they can go here for some activities.
And they're developmental. Kids generally go from one to the next in their development of math thinking.
Yeah. So in terms of strategies, yes.
Mhm.
And that's something I learned from her. She's a researcher. And so that's something that, I actually didn't know that prior to doing this training.
I've kind of been aware of the strategies, but it's really interesting how they're developmental,
Yeah, I didn't know that they build. Like, I didn't realize there was an order they should be rolled out and kind of mastered in.
Any other thoughts, comments, questions, feedback? So do you want to send your whatever other feedback you have as far as typos, things like that, you can email in. And once Erin clarifies those things, do you want to send to the full board? Is that your thought?
Yes.
Okay. So Erin, once you have any of the typo things cleaned up, or whatever, just you can send me the whole PDF land again. And what I'll do is I'll get them off to the full board. Because I want to give them as much time as possible, at least a month, which a week from, I don't even know if you're working this week, Erin. A week from today is the 15th, and our board meeting is on the 12th in September. So that would give them close to a month to go through them, which would be a good approval time if we can. If I'm putting a target in front of you, Erin, I think that's a pretty good target, as long as you folks can get your things to Erin pretty quickly and there's not 1,000 of them. But if we miss September, we miss September. We're going to keep chugging along. So,
And the teachers go ahead and get started whether we approve it or not, right? So we're not blocking it at all.
no, you're not blocking anything. Yeah.
No. What's after math?
So are we, question about procedure, because a couple of the units, we've had the board read them, the rest of the board read them, then we've talked about it once, and then we've like a first read, and then we did a second read. But some of them, we just went with one read. So that's going
to be up to the board. My gut is math is a little less controversial. If this were a social studies unit, maybe I'd say this might be a 2-monther in ELA, but we can see what happens. I mean, if someone needs more time, that's up to the board to decide. If we can give people a month, we have a shot to approve. And I'll frame the email the same way. If you have questions along the way, you should contact Erin to get the answers and not wait to the board meeting. That's what we'll do, just so that way it'll just move things faster. And putting Erin on the spot, trying to find things in a 1,000-page document is needle in a haystack sometimes. So as long as you're all comfortable that we can move forward and get this out to the full board when it's once those typos are done, then I think we move in that way. And again, Tracy, the they already have this. They've had these documents. They've been, even though they've been raw, the staff has these documents. We're just doing more PD around them. We did PD last year around IM. So it's just continual learning and continual adjustments. So this is really to solidify what the board is saying. Here's our math curriculum. That's what then goes to live at the library until we make changes, you know, because right now I think it's all of ELA, phonics, writing, reading, and science are at the library.
Great.
Yeah, I think it's very thorough. It's research based. It's terrific.
Mm.
But that's my opinion.
Yep. Let's see what, I mean, it's going to take the three of you to advocate for the curriculum. If you think it's in a good spot, you're going to be your advocacy. If you didn't think it, I would hope you would say, let's not push this forward to the board yet. We need to meet again. And I'm not sensing that. So.
Yeah. And I will say there was a lot of very positive feedback from teachers this year around just the major resource of IM.
Yeah.
And their use of it. A lot of positive feedback, both schools.
Consistency all the way through.
And it's been used for how many years again in the middle school?
I think this was the 5th. I think it was 4 before. I think this was the 5th year. I think 4th or 5th, but I want to say 5th.
Yeah, and I'm going to say 3rd because of COVID.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Mhm.
But still, it's been
Some time. It's been in the middle school for a period of time. The piece that I would say was lacking was some of the consistency, which is in the written document, and the professional development. So we are hammering away at both of those things with, you know, good professional development, good systems to make sure people have what they need to teach what we're asking them to teach. And then follow through, making sure that if we need intervention, we have it. So we're getting there.
Mm-hmm.
thank you,
Slowly.
Erin, for all that work. That it was hard to read. It's hard to read all that, but you had to write it all. We appreciate it.
Yeah, those were the two, well, 3 actually, because science is in there too, but math and ELA. Those are the big hurdles.
Sharon. What's next?
Social studies, we're doing social, and then all of the unified arts. So this year the focus is the unified arts curriculum, which the teachers are taking a good chunk because those are not necessarily my areas of expertise, but I'm working with each group. And then social studies, and social studies is going to be predominantly done through project-based learning. That's going to be our lens as we develop our project-based learning units.
Excellent.
And I will, so just again, I've been searching and searching, and it must be in a resource that I've looked at and is not in this training. So I will send to this group, I will send the student sheets. I'll send a picture of it's a goal setting sheet the kids use and track strategies they're on. And I will send the staircase that shows the progression.
Thank you.
And then you guys can send your feedback or comments, typos, things, just to Erin, so that way she can get them all cleaned up. All right. All right, you got like 35 minutes to wolf down some food before our next meeting.
So you want us in person tonight, Phil? Was that
No,
what-
no.
No?
It's
You
all
sure?
remote. No, I think after tonight, I'd be surprised if we're not hybrid in September, but
Okay, tonight we're still online.
Good to
Yeah.
know, 'cause we've got
you'll
a-
see in the survey tonight. You'll see.
Unfortunately.
So,
Same link, same link.
different link.
Oh, go to,
Yep, 2 different recordings. There will be there's a different link for tonight's
Yeah.
meeting. So
In the agenda, Anne.
in the agenda.
and hopefully they made it live, because we told them you got to make the link in the agenda live and not use our copy.
Yeah, it looks live.
Yeah.
I have it here.
All right.
Okay,
All right,
great.
see you soon.
All right. It's
Thank you, Erin. Thanks for your
Thanks,
help
Erin.
and your team.
All right, 6:24 p.m. We are done. We'll see you all in a bit. Thanks so much.
You.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.